What's up, fellow bike nerds? Welcome back to the Weekly Rewind, where we catch you up on all the hottest cycling news from the previous week. This time around, we've got quite a few sweet new bikes, some prototypes to speculate on, and more. But first, we have a featherweight beast from Unno. And no, that's not just a figure of speech. This one's literally called the Myth Factory Feather Edition, and it's making some bold claims. Unno is calling this the lightest ever full power E-MTB. And it weighs just 42.3 pounds or 19.8 kilograms. For reference, that's 5 pounds lighter than the already light standard Myth and even lighter than many SL bikes. So how did Unno pull this off? Well, most of the weight savings actually comes just from swapping the battery from the stock 800 watt-hour option to a 600 watt-hour option. That alone saved about 2 pounds or 0.9 kilograms. They also went with some lighter spec components. For instance, they swapped the Fox 38 to a Fox 36, as well as the Float X2 shock for a Float X. Another big weight savings comes from the tires, which uses a lighter casing Schwalbe Tacky Chan front and rear. Now, I wouldn't blame you for thinking that reducing the battery size and scaling back on some of the components would lead to a reduced price. But you'd be wrong. This Myth Factory Feather Edition actually cost $2,000 more than the standard Myth Factory, putting it at a whopping $16,220. The initial batch of 10 limited edition bikes has already been sold, but Unno is now taking pre-orders for the 2026 run of bikes on their website. Let's stick with light bikes for just a sec longer and talk about the fully redesigned 2026 Norco Revolver. Like its predecessor, the new Revolver is a carbon-only affair and is offered in both a short and long travel version. But both variants now get more travel and more aggressive geometry. The new Revolver 120 gets, as you'd guess, a 120mm fork up front and 115mm of travel in the rear. The Revolver 130 gets a 130mm fork and 120mm out back. Both bikes also get the same new frame, which ditches the horse-link suspension in favor of a flex stay design, which Norco says has helped them make it the lightest full suspension bike they've ever built. The new frame also has UDH compatibility, a refined seat tube for increased dropper post insertion, and room for 2 full-size water bottles in the front triangle. There's also been some pretty big changes in the geometry department, which shouldn't come as a surprise seeing as this bike has been updated since 2019. As expected, it gets the full, longer, lower, slacker treatment, and being in Norco, has size-specific figures pretty much across the board. Prices range from $3,899 to $11,499. The top-tier Revolver 120 SE weighs a very impressive 25.3 pounds or 11.5 kilograms. Light bike number 3 takes us over to the gravel side of things with the all-new Fara GR4, which they're calling their most versatile gravel platform yet. The biggest headline here is the bike's massive 57mm or 29 by 2.2 inch tire clearance, which is right up there with the best in the market. According to Fara's founder, Jeff Webb, the goal of the GR4 was to make a bike that didn't force riders to choose between something built for racing or one for exploration, but instead have a single package that can handle it all. To do this, they stuck with making a featherweight race-ready frame that weighs just 970 grams. That's 250 grams less than its predecessor. But they still packed that frame full of real-world features like in-frame storage, plenty of mounting points, fender compatibility, and yes, that massive tire clearance. Fara's also developed their own unique integrated cockpit that they claim incorporates a controlled amount of flex and vibration damping for added comfort over long distances. The GR4 is available in 3 different builds, starting at $6,500, as well as a $5,200 frame set option. But not everybody's chasing grams. Case in point, the all-new Chromag Reason, a 135mm trail bike that weighs 37 pounds or 16.8 kilograms. But of course, there's a lot more here to talk about than just those weight figures. The new bike gets 135mm of travel in the back, paired with a 160mm fork. And Chromag is pitching it as essentially a more approachable and forgiving alternative to the 120-160mm Darko. At the moment, the Reason is only available as a full 29er, but Chromag says that they're going to be releasing a mullet-compatible rocker link in the near future. They've also gone ahead and updated the suspension kinematics for, quote, more efficient climbing and composed descending, as well as increased tire clearance, and actually shortened the reach while increasing stack height to make for a bit more neutral and familiar riding position. But don't worry, all the things we love about Chromag are still there, including the steel front triangle paired with an aluminum rear end and simple external cable routing. The Reason is available as a $2,750 frame set or one of 2 complete bikes with a base price of $5,300. Moving on now to our deal of the week, where I've chosen my favorite bike out of the dozens of deep discounts that we have collected on the 99 Spokes deals page. And this time around, it's over 50% off the GT Sensor Carbon Pro at Jensen USA. That puts the price at just $2,299, which is absolutely insane. The best news, there's still availability in all frame sizes. For that price, you'd usually be looking at an alloy frame with some pretty base level components. But with this GT Sensor Carbon Pro, you are getting, yes, a carbon frame that delivers 140 millimeters of rear wheel travel via a RockShox Super Deluxe Select Plus shock in the rear and 150 millimeter Lyric Select Plus up front. The bike's also spec'd with a SRAM GX drivetrain, SRAM Code R brakes, a WTB KOM trail wheel set, and Continental Kryptodal tires. Again, this is the type of stuff you'd expect to see on a bike that costs easily twice as much. So it's a great option if you're looking to get a big bump in performance without taking a massive leap in price. If that sounds like something you're interested in, I've left an affiliate link to check it out for yourself in the description. Time now for some industry gossip. And boy, do I have a treat for you today. We've got lots of prototypes. Up first, we have what we can only assume is the next generation Fox 40, which was on Jackson Goldstone's Crankworx downhill bike. And at least from the outside looking in, the biggest difference you can see is in the lowers. They feature the same additive arch design that's been slowly making its way across the entire Fox fork lineup. According to Fox, this new design, at least when implemented on their shorter travel forks, decreased weight while simultaneously increasing lateral stiffness, and we'd imagine it'd do the same here. On the opposite end of the spectrum, several RockShox riders showed up at the Leadville 100 with some super bizarre looking Aero forks. We can only assume that under these tapered fairings is the standard SID Ultimate SL, but the only branding was SRAM's fabled black box logo. The idea is, of course, that these fairings could add tangible aerodynamic benefits with basically zero impact to performance or weight. The only real question, though, is how long it's going to take the UCI before they start regulating fork fairing length on mountain bikes. Who knows? Speaking of the UCI, though, there was a fair bit of drama on the road side of things last week, where 5 women's teams, that's EF Education, Little Trek, Canyon SRAM, Team Picnic Post NL, and Team Visma Lisa Bike were all banned from the Tour of Romandie. The reason? Refusing to comply with the UCI's mandate that one rider from every team must be selected to trial a new GPS tracker during every stage of the race. The UCI strongly defended the rule as a safety measure, reiterating that the trackers are purely a safety measure that could help medical workers more quickly access riders after a fall. They even went as far as to call the refusal to wear said trackers deplorable, stating that by doing so, these teams are undermining the UCI's efforts to enhance rider safety. The teams, however, argued that this new regulation was poorly communicated, poorly executed, and not part of standard UCI protocol. Those teams issued a letter to the UCI and, amongst other things, said that the tracker requirement, quote, disregards the rights of teams and riders, applies the measure in a discriminatory manner, and contradicts the UCI's own stated commitment to dialogue with stakeholders. Honestly, it's pretty sad that this situation ended in such a messy and public clash. It only points at the fact that more and more often it seems that fans and riders are getting upset with what the UCI is doing and vice versa. Hopefully, we'll kind of come to an end of all this drama soon. But even Redbull Rampage, an event that the UCI wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole, has its own fair share of drama. And there's definitely been plenty of grumbling across the interwebs about the riders selected for this year's running. Now, in terms of how these riders got chosen, 5 of them were pre-qualified because they placed in the top 5 at last year's Rampage. Then there's an additional 13, which they're calling wild cards. And these guys were hand-selected by previous Rampage competitors because they showed potential at the event. Then there's 3 more alternates should any of those riders not be able to compete. You can find a full list for the invited male and female riders on Red Bull's website. And just so you can mark your calendars now, the 2025 event is October 16th through 18th. So start thinking up why you're going to be missing work now. Last but not least, it's time to wrap things up by sharing a little something that got me stoked that I hope will do the same for you. And usually we like to talk about some cool edit or impressive feat, but this time around I want to celebrate you, or really us. I want to celebrate the cycling community. My wife and I throw a dirt jump jam in our backyard every so often, and our last one, which we called Jankworks, was this past weekend. And it was just cool to see the way the community showed up, with local businesses donating prizes to give away, riders cheering each other on, regardless of their skill level, and we even had one guy, who you might recognize from our value trail bike field tests we did last summer, donate a bike to another up-and-comer who'd until then been ripping around on an old beat-up hardtail. So here's to us cyclists. Yeah, we can be a bit snooty, and if we're not careful, maybe even a little elitist from time to time, but you strip all that away and we're at our best. It's a community that I'm definitely proud to be a part of. But that's enough gushing for one episode. Thanks, as always, for tuning in to the Weekly Rewind. And if that tangent didn't already convince you of this, remember that bikes are for everyone. Have fun out there.